Hello YouTube! Here we go. First video on my new channel, and the reason this channel exists is because even though I'm a white male and not part of a minority, I'm kind of part of a cultural and political minority because I am a biker. I ride motorcycles. I love riding motorcycles, and I live in rural Texas, and I'm politically liberal, left-leaning, whatever you want to call it, progressive, yellow dog Democrat. That's me. And every time I look on YouTube for liberal biker, I get, bikers yelling at liberals, bikers beating up liberals, or what the Liberal Democratic Party of Australia wants to do to promote motorcycling. So, but there's nothing, I couldn't find anything on an American YouTube channel that was liberal on a motorcycle. So here I am. Hi, how you doing? And I really wanted this video to be an introduction, but there's just too much happening in the politics of the United States of America that we're not ever going to have a slow or quiet news week so that I can have an introduction video. So here goes. My first episode of the new vlog: can the Republican Party actually govern and do their job when they run for office? Short answer, no. Long answer with explanation and things to back up why I say no. Here we go. First off, when a Republican politician campaigns, they tell you they're not going to do their job, and if they do their job, they tell you they're not going to do it well. There's a very famous quote from Ronald Reagan, who said that the most scary words in the English language were, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." I kind of think that tells you right there he's not going to do anything to help. Or if he does try to help, it's going to be a bad job. A Republican mantra is to have the government so small you can drown it in the bathtub. Republicans can't govern if they're against having government. You have to understand that government has a job, and you have to be willing to do that job. Let's get into specifics on this. Look at a Congress. One of the duties of Congress, it's set forth in the Constitution, mandated in the United States Constitution, that Congress has the power to approve the budget. Our current budget process says the president gives a wish list, offers a budget, says this is what I want the budget to be on, but Congress has to approve it. And they're supposed to approve a fiscal year budget for an entire year by a deadline in April. According to the GAO, because I'm going to source everything, and any argument that I make has got sources. According to the GAO, Government Accounting Office, or they changed it to Government Accountability Office, in the last 40 years, Congress has done that job on time 4 times in 40 years, 10% of the time. Only 4 times. 1977, which was the first year of the current process, 1989, 1995, and 1997 fiscal years. Those are the only 4 times in the last 40 years that Congress approved a full year budget for a fiscal year on time without having to have what's called a continuing resolution. A continuing resolution is a fancy political science-y type way of, and parliamentary procedure type way of basically being the college student going up to the professor and saying, I need more time to do my term paper. And then can I do part of it in 2 weeks, and then I'll get the rest of it finished soon, I promise. And then eventually they'll go in, they'll ask for extra credit right at the end of the semester. But anyway, I digress. I've only been able to do it without continuing resolutions 4 times. What does that have to do with the Republican Party? They surely cannot be to blame for that, you say? No, they can't. There's disagreement, and most of the time in the last 40 years, our government's been divided, with one party in control of Congress and one party in control of the executive branch, and they all have to agree on the budget for it to happen. But let's look at those 4 fiscal years. For fiscal year 77, Jimmy Carter was president and had a democratically controlled House and a democratically controlled Senate. 1989, George H.W. Bush. You had a democratically controlled Congress, a democratically controlled Senate, and a Republican president. For then for fiscal 95, you had Bill Clinton for president, as president, democratically controlled House, democratically controlled Senate. In 97, the Congress was Republican controlled, House and Senate, but Clinton was still president. One thing that they all have in common is that there was a Democrat in control of the White House, or Democrats had control of the Congress on those 4 years. Now, Democrats have had unified control and not been able to get their homework done on time. That is true. But it's the same with Republicans. Republicans have had unified control in the last 40 years, meaning they have the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. They've had that more often than Democrats have. In the last... anyway, so there's that. So what happens when you can't get it done on time? They ask for a continuing resolution, and that resolution pushes back the deadline. It's an extension. And sometimes it takes multiple times in a year to get it done, anywhere from 2 to a couple of dozen continuing resolutions to keep the government funded for the year. The reason I'm bringing this up on this episode is we are a week past our most recent government shutdown. Government shutdowns are the result of Congress not being able to pass a continuing resolution or a budget by the deadline. They can't get it done on time. They can't get agreement. And so the government shuts down because of a funding gap. The most recent law that basically stated that, it's the Anti-Deficiency Act. It was originated in the 1880s, but it kept getting amended. And the last time the Anti-Deficiency Act was amended was in 1982. And since 1982, that's when we've been dealing with government shutdowns. And there were 3 government shutdowns during the Ronald Reagan administration with a Republican president and Democratic Congresses that all 3 lasted 1 day or less. There was a shutdown in 1990 when George Bush was president and there was a Democratic Congress. It lasted 2 days. Since then, if we go into the history of government shutdowns for the last 25 years, there have been 4, and all of them have been longer than 2 days. First one, after Congress did its job on time for fiscal 95, they came to do the 96 budget, couldn't agree because now there was Republican Congress with Clinton as president, and the contract on America, with America, sorry, I misspoke. We usually go there, sorry. But the contract with America and Newt Gingrich, they just didn't want to play, so there was a 5-day government shutdown at the end of 1995, and a month later, there was a 21-day government shutdown in 1996. There wasn't another government shutdown until 2013, with Barack Obama as the president, who was a Democrat, and Republican control of Congress in the House and the Senate. And this one last week, January 2018, you had Donald Trump as president, a Republican, with Republican-controlled House and a slim Republican majority in the Senate. This most recent shutdown is the only time in the history of the United States, the only time where the President, the House of Representatives, and the Senate were all held by the same party, and they could not keep the government open. The last 4 government shutdowns, the only 4 government shutdowns that have lasted more than 2 days, and the only government shutdowns in the last 25 years have all happened when Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. That's a pattern. And this time around, with a Republican president, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate, they could not keep the government open. And when they finally did get to a resolution to open the government 3 days later, 3-day shutdown, short, but still longer than 2. When they finally did come up with the solution, it only funded the government for another 2.5 weeks. So right now, as I'm making this video, we're less than 2 weeks away from the next brink and the next possible government shutdown with a Republican president and a Republican-led Congress. Hopefully they won't shut it down. Hopefully they'll keep things going. On this last shutdown, the Republican Party tries to blame the Democrats for it and say, well, they're filibustering this, which they did. They filibustered the budget so that it required 60 votes. Republican Party didn't have that much of a majority, so those of you, you're going to say, hey, got to give some blame to them. No, I don't. Senate Majority Leader went into the White House, had an agreement with the President to have protections under DACA, and even offered the President funding for the border wall, and he agreed. And they had an agreement set, and it was going to get taken care of, and then the President backed out of it. During the shutdown, Democratic senators brought up measures to keep the military payroll open during the government shutdown. So military service members would get paid during the government shutdown. Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell objected to it and blocked it from coming to the floor. There was another measure brought up by another Democratic congressman, a Democratic senator, to hold Congress's paychecks until the government shutdown was over. Both of those are conservative talking points, by the way, but they don't want to tell you that Republicans in the Senate objected and blocked those from coming to votes. Can the Republican Party govern? There's my evidence, there's my argument as to why I say no. So I'm going to wrap this video up. I'm done with my rant. If you don't want to mess with politics and you just want to have a vlog on a motorcycle and reviews of motorcycles and only talking about motorcycles, check out my other channel at Spinner Dodge, SPINNERDAJ, or just look for an Indian Scout 60 demo and you'll see it, or any upgrades to an Indian Scout 60, and you'll see my other channel. But this one's going to be political. If you agree with me, give me a like. If you agree with me, say something in the comments. If you disagree with me and you want to troll me in the comments, you can go ahead and do that too, because I'll likely have you likely bring up your comments in one of my next videos. And it's a new channel, so I could use some subscribers, so hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. My plan is to hit one of these weekly political motovlog rants about once a week, so I'll see you next week, YouTube. This is the Liberal Texas Biker signing off. As soon as I finish this curve. I gotta say this though, before I sign off. Government has a purpose. I'm driving on one. Roads. We can fund roads. As a biker, I really appreciate a well-paved road, and I don't like one that's not paved. Can we at least agree that the government should do that? All right. See you next week.